Okay, 3, 2, 1. So, hello. This is Bodie again from uh, the Resilience and Trauma Fitness podcast. Welcome back. I've got Tom Snyir here. Uh, Tom, it's great to have you. Thanks for coming on, and we're going to talk about some great stuff. I know we're going to unpack those things. So let's just jump right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you want people to know about you.
No problem. Hello, and thanks for inviting me. It's really cool to be invited to let people know what my heart and passion is. So my name is Tom Snyir. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Heather, and we have 3 children, Jacob, Katie, and Daisy. We are originally from Pittsburgh, PA, but however, we currently reside in Yorktown, Virginia. I'm a combat veteran who served as a combat engineer in the United States Army from 1984 to 1995, which included combat service in Operation Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior in December of 1995, and from 1996 to 99, I attended Liberty University online and graduated in 99 to become a pastor. I began working as a United States Postal Service carrier in January of 96, steadily raising through the ranks from carrier to supervisor, and eventually I retired in November of 24 as a manager in Hampton, Virginia. Along my career, I served as a pastor in various church ministries and have been a chaplain since 2009, beginning my ministry in Elizabeth Township, Pennsylvania. I was honored then to become the chaplain for the Fire Association for the state of Pennsylvania and worked with the fire commissioner, Ed Mann, at that time. And then in 2015, we relocated to Yorktown, Virginia. So over the last 9 years, I've served as the chaplain for Newport News Fire, and the last 2 years with the York-Poquoson Sheriff's Office. So my ministry has grown into 2 distinct yet deeply connected branches like limbs from a tree. One branch walks alongside of the first responders and their families, helping them shoulder the unique burdens of service, and the other reaches out to the families in the crisis, those impacted by the very calls that our responders answer. We often arrive on the worst day of someone's life, and all they want is for someone to ease their pain or to fix it. And sometimes this just means simply being present, as I learned through this ministry. Other times it means guiding them towards professional counseling and spiritual support. So I work closely with firefighters, law enforcement officers, EMS personnel, dispatchers, military, and the families who stand behind them. My path into fire chaplaincy took shape during a deep challenge of my own. While working as a letter carrier and pastoring a church, my daughter Katie was battling cancer just as she was 4 years old. So I took a 3-month sabbatical at that time to focus on my family. But my wife, as much as she loves me, with love and honesty, told me I needed to find something to do because I was driving her crazy. So when the fire chiefs approached me and asked me if I considered becoming a chaplain for the department, I asked what the role involved. And he simply said, "You just do what you do for the church, but for firefighters and their family." Well, it's a lot different than dealing with people in the church, because people in the emergency services have a whole different perspective on what God, because of what the crisis that they go through, and they see what happens to children and to families and how they're just torn apart in these crises, and even their own. So how can a God exist? So this is one of the battles that I had to face. So as I stepped into this new calling, I enrolled in classes through the Federation of Fire Chaplains to gain the necessary training. But I didn't stop there. I went through fire school to become a firefighter myself. I wanted to be able to speak their language, understand their world, and mostly earn their respect by walking in their boots. So shortly after finishing school, we responded to a major structure fire. And as I arrived on scene, I'm walking toward the home to support the family and check out the firefighters that are in rehab to make sure they're okay. And something unexpected happened. The firefighters began congratulating me. They were stopping what they were doing. The house was already a loss, but they stopped what they were doing. And in that moment, I just wasn't a chaplain anymore. I became one of them. and they welcomed me to the brother and sisterhood. And it felt very, very good to be accomplished and accepted in that way. So today I remain committed to the ongoing education so I can better serve those who serve others. Just recently, I just got my EMTB certification on the National Registry. I went to school in January. I completed it in May, so that when I go on scene, not only am I able to communicate with the firefighters and the EMSs on scene, but I'm also able to communicate to the families what our personnel are doing. Why are they cutting a hole in my house? Why are they breaking the windows out? Why are they doing these things? And so I'm able to explain that to them to bring them a little bit more comfort. And then I walk them through the process, asking them, do you have a pastor? Are there firearms in a home? If they are, where are they located? Because I don't want any of our fire personnel or police to get hurt. Also, is there any medication? Is that medication compromised? You know, do you have a place to stay? Calling the Red Cross, calling the Salvation Army to come out, not only to minister to the fire personnel, but to the people of the community. So, you know, I did all these things, you know, and I went through regular attending specialized training through ICISF and other organizations such as Reboot Recovery with Evan Owens. I'm one of his, I teach one of his groups for first responders and military personnel, and others to deepen my understanding, especially of suicide, trauma, grief, and crisis intervention. So I took all of these on my own so that I could become a better chaplain to who I am talking with. Yeah. So my goal is to offer meaningful comfort and guidance, help individuals navigate the immediate challenges they face until we connect them with professional care that they need. So there's a powerful illustration, the difference between involvement and commitment. So there's a chicken and a pig, and they're walking down the road, and they see this sign for a charity breakfast. And the chicken says, let's help out. We can give them ham and eggs. The pig replies, that's easy for you to say. You're just involved. I'm committed. You know, so the chicken contributes something, drops an egg here and there. It costs her a little. But for the pig, it costs everything. And that's the essence of commitment, the full investment, the full sacrifice. So this story really resonates deeply in ministry and service, especially in chaplaincy, because emergency responders don't need someone who's just involved. They need someone who's all in, someone who shows up, not just words, but with presence, pain, and persistence, you know, and this is why your vulnerability matters so much. You're not just offering eggs, you're offering your life. It reminds me of John 15:13. It says, there's no greater sacrifice than this, that one lays down his life for his brother. So this is the kind of love and commitment that builds trust with these responders and their family. That's what opens the door for the hard conversations. And that's why I am more than just a chaplain that prays at ceremonies and memorial services. And I've seen and buried a lot of responders that did not get the help that they needed.
Mm. Can we pause for a second?
Sure.
That one hit home.
I understand.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here. Yeah. You know, it's a team sport, right?
Yes.
Go ahead. Continue. I just, that one, I didn't expect that one. Keep going.
Well, we're on question. That's the beginning of me. So
that's the end of question one.
Yes.
We're just getting warmed up, people.
Yes, what? I am just getting warm up. Yes.
Oh man, I got a tear going here. Let's just woo. Dang. Brother, you came out of left field with that one. That was a home run.
Well, nice. I want people to know what my heart is, my passion.
Yeah.
And see, and my wife, she's in this with me because with the responders' wives, their girlfriends, their significant others, they also have a woman, a godly woman that loves the Lord and loves me and supports me in doing this. So this is more of our ministry, in which we call it Ashes to Beauty. And it's so fitting because, you know, we're bringing people out of the ashes and the chaos of their life, and we're bringing it to healing and release of that pain and peace. So that is the goal, to bring them out of that tattered life that's going on and help them with the resources in their toolbox to be able to move through each day.
Okay. Yeah. So I love that. I love that. So in my experience, like the resources, the tools and all that, one of the most powerful things I can recall at the, you know, when I was doing some of this work was the gift of like each other, like the gift of other guys who are talking truth to each other, where it's like, this isn't, you know, pardon my French, there's no BS here. We're, you know, like you can talk the crap all day long, but really let's get down to the brass tacks. Let's talk about real stuff, things that are bothering each other.
Sure.
And getting real. And no,
yeah.
I'm sourcing that because I remember some of the strongest connections that I had with guys who I was in this work with was guys that I was just like, man, look, because I retired in 2009. Okay. It's not fresh for me like it was, but the stuff when it came up was just like, it was like last week or like, you know, an hour ago. I mean, the feeling is no different. Right. And so the connection though is really powerful because what the work did when we were doing the work, it kind of brought us closer together. And then we realized, hey man, the real kind of connection, the real healing is done in knowing that I'm supported in whatever I'm going through right now. And I've got to get through this. And that I've got somebody over here, somebody's got my back. I'm not alone.
Yes.
Right. And that's the beauty of having, for all these guys who've got you, they know that they've got, you know, Chaplain Tom is got their back and they can talk to you about anything. Okay. Now you did do some training and stuff. So it's not like you're completely. Yeah. But the peer support though, the connection, I'm sorry, I going off on a deep end.
No, you're okay.
But I think that's really something to kind of like hone in on as, you know, you talk about supporting the family. You've got support with your wife. I mean, that is such a good thing for you too. So anyway, go ahead and continue. I'll tell you what, I've got more questions. Do you want me to keep going?
We can go. Yeah, go through the questions because that's how I've set it up, and then we can go through, and you'll learn more about me as we go through the questions, and you know my life and my family's life and the responders that I minister to.
Okay, beautiful. By the way, I want to tell you, this is a side note for Tom, for anyone who's listening who wants to contact Tom, we're going to provide some contact information for him. If you have any kind of desire to be a chaplain, I can't think of a better guy for you to talk to than Tom. So I know there's some guys out there with a lot of passion for this kind of thing. If you're interested, I can't think of a better guy to talk to about this. So I'm going to encourage my brothers and sisters, if they want to be a chaplain, like this is the way to go. Okay.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to segue into the second question. So Tom, I'm curious, how do firefighters start talking about the hard things with questions? You know, what questions do you ask them? Or do you share who you are first in order to establish like rapport to kind of like make connection?
So as a chaplain, regardless of the agency, whether it's fire, EMS, law enforcement, military, or dispatchers, I quickly realized that many were hesitant to talk to me. They knew me as like a pastor in a community, but I haven't earned their trust or taking the time to truly connect with them on a personal level yet. So the initial part of my ministry, I would go to the firehouse. I would say, hey, how are you doing? I'd stay there for about 30 minutes. They didn't want to talk to me. But then when I went through fire school, and then they realized that I may be the only actual person that cares about them and their families, they started opening up to me, where, I would have someone call that was a firefighter back up in Pittsburgh that was going to commit suicide. He was sitting in the McDonald's parking lot, had a pistol. It was over relationships, so, at that time, I'm still going through training. I didn't realize that at that time I wasn't supposed to go to talk to this guy by myself that has a gun in the front of his vehicle, and I shouldn't get in the vehicle with him. And however, I felt that God was leading all this, and, God would protect me. And if not, I would be in glory with him. I look back at it in hindsight and I'm like, well, that was really stupid of me to do that, because no one's invincible. I had another time that I had the police call me up to my church parking lot back in Pittsburgh again. And they're like, hey, we have this guy down here is suicidal. We need you to talk to him. He needs to go to the hospital. Here, put this vest on. And, oh, by the way, he's got a crossbow. And I'm like, well, that's not going to help me. And I'm like, well, you should go first and I'll go second. And they're like, well, God, so you go first.
Okay.
So, So, you have these things going. They look at me as, of God, but I'm not invincible, and
we're going to put you out front.
Yeah, that's what they were doing. And I'm like, no, Jesus is in front. I'm behind Jesus. He's in front. But, all the responders and dispatchers are trained to be strong, and there's a stigmatism about, oh, well, I have depression, I have PTSD, I have suicidal ideation, and they're afraid to speak those things out because they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs, or their friends are going to look at them like they're weak, and so what we do is we compartmentalize it. We put it in these little boxes in our brain, and we try to hide them away until finally they're like a volcano and they explode. So, you have all these responders that are out there. They're carrying the weight of trauma, grief. They're burned out from scheduling, and they do this all in silence, not because they don't feel it, but because they've been conditioned to believe that vulnerability is weakness. So when it comes to the hard things, they often stay quiet until they know that it's safe. They know that you're not going to share that information with fire administration or police administration. There are some things that I'm required to share, and that's if you're going to commit suicide, if you're going to harm another firefighter or a police person, or if you're going to damage equipment that is going to cause the death of somebody else, or just your normal things also, like a school teacher, any form of abuse, dealing with elderly abuse, spouse abuse. So, those are things that are mandated that you have to report.
Sure.
So I lead with transparency, because Paul writes in 1 Thessalonians 2:8, because you have loved so much, we are delighted not only to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, but our own lives. So we're very transparent. My wife and I were very transparent when my daughter was dealing with cancer the first time on Facebook. And then when she passed away the second time, when she battled from 16 to 17 with stage 4 glioblastoma, it was all over Facebook. And we just wanted the people to see that our faith and our trust was in Jesus. This verse, it's become the cornerstone of my wife and ours ministry. And I don't just show up with scripture, I show up with my story. So I share my own battles with PTSD, depression, and suicidal ideation. I let them know that I've walked through this darkness too. And my wife and I lost our 17-year-old, as I mentioned, with stage 4 brain cancer nearly 4 years ago. So it's still fresh with us, but we just started leading a support group for parents that have lost their children. We don't know what direction it's going to go in, but we're part of Our Hearts, Our Home ministry out of Lynchburg, Virginia, which is a ministry that's developed around to help parents that have lost children. So it's very powerful. So watching her suffer and witnessing my wife's fierce faith in Jesus through it all. And same as my daughter, Katie, she just praised the Lord through it all every day. We often say, it taught me that healing comes through Jesus Christ alone, but my wife and I often say, we do not know how people go through crisis without a foundation of faith. Ours is in Jesus. Yours might be in another faith base. I don't know. But even with Jesus himself, we are barely making it, even to this day. So that's the kind of vulnerability that builds trust. It opens the doors for real conversations. And I ask questions to the responders like, what's been weighing on you lately? Or how are you really doing? I mean, I can go into the department and say, how you're doing? And they'll say, good. Well, that just means I'm good until I get off shift. And then I'm going to go home and I'm going to self-medicate through the problems that I got going on. And I say to them, okay, well, how are you doing unfiltered? I'm a pastor. Be yourself and let me how you're doing unfiltered. I don't care if you swear. Hey, it's okay. I come to you with compassion. I come with you with dignity, and I come with you with respect. Loving Jesus and loving others. That's the whole thing. So, but more often, I just show up quietly, consistently, and sometimes that's the most powerful ministry is presence. It's not about having the right words. It's about being there when the words finally come. So I found that when you offer your life, not just your title or your theology, you create a space, a safe space for others to do the same. And in that space is where the healing begins, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%, brother. Preach on. Preach on. Yeah. Okay.
So,
wow. So, I've talked a little bit about the IAFF Center of Excellence and stuff, that I went to in Maryland before. Do you like ever make referrals or give people ideas to, go there, or other resources and stuff, or counseling? I mean, like, where do you begin, and kind of where does that other stuff sort of pick up?
So yes, I absolutely refer people for professional help. I'm not a therapist. I'm a chaplain. So you have to remember that as a chaplain, you're not a therapist, And so my role is spiritual and relational. So anybody that's a chaplain out there, they have to remember that you're there for the spiritual and relational part of this. So you begin by listening, being present, and by walking with them through the fire of crisis and the fogs that they go through. I sit in silence sometimes, in the pain and in the questions. But when someone needs clinical care, I don't hesitate. I have counselors on speed dial that work professionally for counseling agencies locally, and they will double drop anything to help one of these responders get what they need, any help that they need. So I connect them to trusted resources like the IAFF Center of Excellence, local counselors, peer support teams, crisis lines, reboot recovery for military and first responders, in the Chaplains network. And when local options aren't available enough, we reach beyond, using facilities across the country that specialize in trauma, recovery, addiction treatments, and responder-specific care, not only for the responder, but also we try to find a way that we can get the spouse or someone that may need it besides the responder to help them in that way. So whether it's in a center in Maryland, or a retreat in Colorado, or a program in Florida, or even if it's online to get immediately help, we find what fits for that responder and their family. The goal is always the same: to get them to safety and healing and to hope. I personally have benefited from treatment, and I know how vital it is. And if I did not have a police officer that was trained in assist training, so it's applied skills and suicide training. So if you ever have any kind of to do that training, and she recognized when I had suicidal ideation, and she got me to a counselor that was an ex-Green Beret. that helped me. So it was more like suck it up, buttercup, but he
Okay.
helped me through his tough love to stabilize me. If that makes sense. So I benefited from it. So
Okay.
the thing is, as a chaplain, I don't end when the referral is made. I stay available. I continue to pray, check in. I support them spiritually and emotionally. Whether if it's a responder or a family member affected by this tragic call, I help them find the right path. I walk with them as long as they need someone to walk with them, because it's all depending on them, not me.
Right.
So they can always say, hey, I don't want nothing to do with you anymore, or the fire department. And through respect, I say, okay. And then maybe a month down the road, not even that long, I'll just send a text saying, hey, check in and see how you're doing. Just to remind them I'm there and they're on my mind. Because, people don't want to be alone when they're walking through these things. So Ecclesiastic 4:10, that what reminds me of this. It's either, if either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no help to get them up. So that's why I stay close, because no one should walk through this recovery or whatever they're going through alone. And Brandon Manning, she has a quote, and it says, in every encounter, we either give life or we drain life. There is no neutral exchange. So with me, I choose to give life, even if it's just through presence, through prayer, words of encouragement, or pointing someone towards the help that they need.
So that's really good. That's really good. I something you said back there was like yeah, so I'm a Bible believing Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And I share my faith. Whenever, however, guys that know me, they know that about me. They've come to expect that with me, and that's just that's who Bodie is. And but what's really interesting is these concepts that you're mentioning, backed by Scripture. I mean, there's a reason why we have this saying, "Never alone," because I can speak for myself. I have this internal drive to be compassionate to other guys who've been through some things, kind of like hard things that I can identify with, things that I've not been in combat. I wasn't in the military. That's another story why I couldn't get in the military, but I was too old to become a helicopter pilot. When I was trying to become a helicopter pilot, it wouldn't take me. But I didn't enlist. I was never in the military, but I did fire service. But I still have compassion for a guy who's been in combat. Like I've not done that, but if he's struggling, I don't know how to really I haven't been through the stuff he's been through, but I know how to support someone because I've done that with guys that I've been through the fire service with. Right. So I love that with the verse that you brought, the Ecclesiastes, great verse. And but I point that out, that long story, to tell you that these things that we just we take for granted, like this is what this is. It's rooted in Scripture. It is. That's where it comes from. It's like, there's a reason why we do good things. It's because God has written, His word, His love on our heart before we were just like filthy rag, like dumb flesh. We had no reason to have any reason to do this until He put it in there. And then I would go out there and say, He's the source of all love. That's what I believe. I believe that He created us,
yes,
out of love, and He's given that gift to us, right? To recreate and reproduce and all that. I mean, not to go down a tangent there, but I do think that there's reasons why that stuff is there. It's in Scripture. We see it every day, but we just maybe not attribute Him the credit that's due for that stuff. Anyway,
Sure.
Sorry.
Can we pause for a minute? I want to turn the light on.
Sir.
The sun's setting.
Yeah, I was gonna say I noticed our lighting is changing at your
well,
place.
that's the sun shining through my window.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Get some vitamin D. That's better than my situation right here. I'm not getting any vitamin D right now. I got some this morning though.
Yes.
Vitamin D is always good.
It is. Yep.
Okay, so I think we're gonna ask you get into some more questions here. So you kind of touched on this a little bit with question 3, but question 4 is like, what kind of supports do like local jurisdictions have in place for guys in need? I think you touched on that, but what about their families? There's the COE, those resources, family specifically. What can the families kind of like expect?
Okay, so with Newport News Fire and the police department, as well as York Poquoson Sheriff's Office, we have a strong Chisholm team, peer support teams, EAP services. We have a CARES program, which is community assistance response teams. And we have the Chaplain Network. So all of these are also, the families can use all of these at any time, dealing with that. So there's a growing awareness of mental health needs of first responders, and that's encouraging. These programs are vital and they create space for healing, debriefing, and connecting among those who often carry invisible burdens. But families, they often stay and remain in the shadows, which is very hurtful. And that's where the second branch of this ministry comes in that we do. When a family is impacted by a call, whether if it's suicide of their loved one, a fatal accident, a fire, a police-involved shooting, or a violent crime, we show up. We offer comfort, prayer, and guidance. I'll show up on a scene and speak with the family member that's like lost their mind. And then the police or the fire will say, oh, we were at total chaos. And when you came on, there was this peace, this comfort that we don't understand where it came from, and so sometimes they just need someone to sit with them, the family member, while they're going through this chaos. Other times they also need help navigating the grief, the trauma, or the loss. So we have support for the families of the responders, because when one person serves, the whole family sacrifices. And we make sure spouses and children have access to care, with access to the community and spiritual support. One of the great things I think about Newport News, it has a care team. So it has this community assistance response team. It has, I think we have 3, maybe 4 or 5. And now they have a mobile home also that is a mobile care clinic where they can go out in the community in response. If someone is having a mental health breakdown, regardless if they're somebody in the community or they are a first responders family, we have an EMT that goes with them, and we had a mental health specialist that goes with them to help the crisis, which is very, very important for family health. And I think probably every city in the United States should have a care team. I mean, that's how vital our care team is here. I can't talk enough about Jennifer Royal, which she is she's the head over the care team for the Newport News Fire Department, and she's doing remarkable things. So, if you have any questions that, you can always call Newport News Fire Department in Virginia, in Newport News, Virginia, and you can ask or leave a message for Jennifer Royal. And she's just amazing, and her team's amazing on what they can do to help families in that. So, sometimes support doesn't always come in the form of answers. It often comes in presence. Presence is very powerful. So we remind families that they're not forgotten, they're not alone, and they're not without hope. Romans 12:15 says, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. And so that's the posture that we take, entering into their story with empathy and grace. because, God enters into our story while we're going through the pain. We're going through those things. He enters it with us, and I love Fred Rogers because I'm from Pittsburgh. So Fred Rogers says, anyone who does anything to help a child in his life is a hero to me. So I extend that to say anyone who helps a responder's family, especially in crisis, is part of the healing. It's not just about the crisis response. It's about building a culture of care that lasts beyond the moment. Yeah.
Good stuff, Tom. Some great resources. It sounds like Jennifer over at Newport News Fire Department. She's got. I don't know of many cities. I've been out of the fire service for a while, but I don't know of many cities that are doing all that. I mean, it seems like, for a second, it seems like some of the fire departments that I know of, they pay lip service to PTSD and firefighters that are struggling with stuff. But when it comes right down to it, I mean, depending on the circumstances, and of course it depends on the local jurisdiction, but some of the options for these guys is really kind of limited, and the end result can be like termination. Like, this is not the way it should go. Have you heard these stories too? I mean, I don't know what it's like where you're at, but I've heard these stories, and it's not okay.
Well, I hear these stories all through the fire service, and and law enforcement also, with because of the stigmatism that goes with PTSD,
yes,
with depression, suicidal ideation. However, there are, I call them unicorns. Chiefs or sheriffs. They're unicorns, where they actually care about their people, and they would rather their people get the help that they need. And then, as they're getting the help that they need, so if something happens and they have to face a consequence, it may cost them their job, or they may respond in a text message while they're going through something out of anger. And, there's a consequence that comes along those actions at time. So we can't dismiss the accountability portion of it just because we're going through some kind of mental health breakdown, in dealing with that. There's still an accountability that goes through that process, and I'm only accountable for my actions and my words. And so, but when it's okay to do those things and then type yourself an email and then delete it, but however, when you see that you actually have admin that actually care, Chief Rogers for Newport News, he actually cares about his people. So I mean, it's really great to see that, and he doesn't play lip service. Sheriff Montgomery from York Pocosin Sheriff's Office, he cares about his people. He wants his people, because if they didn't care, why would they have a care team, and why would they have a chaplain? So
yeah.
I'm not there just to, whatever. I'm there, and one of the hard things is people were like, oh, you're part of admin, so you're a spy. Well, no, I'm not a spy. I can't. Yeah. So I had explained to them, I can't share things with them unless it deals with, you want to kill yourself or you want to hurt somebody else.
Yeah, mandatory reporting. And I mean, you've got it. I think, well, I guess you have to do that. I don't know how they make you a mandatory reporter, and I don't really, it's probably some sort of thing. If they're going to be, if you're going to be associated with the official fire department and you're going to be considered a chaplain, maybe they have a policy, or they have to form a policy, or the attorney's office of the jurisdiction says, well, if you're going to do that, then you got to be telling them, you have to be a mandatory reporter for legal reasons.
Well, you have a liability with that, because how would you feel if you knew someone was suicidal and then you didn't get them the help that they needed, and then they killed themselves, and then the firemen find out that this individual told you, your ministry's gone, your integrity's gone.
Right.
And once your integrity's gone, you can never get your integrity back. It takes, well, you can, but it takes a long time. I mean, they could take everything from you.
Right. Yeah. I can think of a situation that didn't involve a local jurisdiction, but it involved something else, and it wasn't handled very well. So,
Mhm.
yeah. Um, anyway, yeah. So that's good to know. So where do you like? You've probably dealt with a lot of families and stuff.
Mhm.
Where do you have any suggestions for wives or family members who have a spouse or loved one that is suffering? Um, how about how about something and really kind of two questions.
Mhm.
What about like if a family member, like a first responder, goes to like a center of excellence or someplace for recovery work, and like what happens kind of with their family while they're there? Because that's kind of I mean, knowing what I know about guys that were in recovery, I mean,
Mhm.
and seeing how many of those guys were served divorce papers while they were at the center,
Mhm.
yeah, just it was gut wrenching, right? So, like, what kind of and I was just like, there's no. While I was there, I was thinking, there's not really none of these guys are really telling me about any kind of supports for their wives or their family while they're there.
Yeah. So, first, I reaffirm to let them know that they are not alone. That's
Yeah.
the weight that you carry is real. It's authentic, and it's okay to seek help for yourself too, because you're just not a bystander in all of this. You're part of the healing process, and your well-being matters, because you can't care for your children if you don't take care of yourself. You can't care for others if you don't care for yourself. So they have to understand that their well-being is matters. Self-care is very important. I
Okay.
just wrote a presentation probably about three months ago about self-care, and I taught it to our Chisholm team at the sheriff's office about taking care of yourself. you know and one of the things is, you encourage open communication. Everybody communicates and interprets that communication differently. I communicate different than my wife communicates, so what she may be saying, I may not be understanding it correctly. So we have to have that open communication, but also in that, you don't want to force it. Sometimes just saying, I'm here when you're ready, is enough. Your presence, your patience, and consistency can be a lifeline to these people. You know, so during intake or recovery, regardless if it's the responder or their spouse, you have to stay connected. You have to send letters. You need to visit when possible, and you have to remind them that they're loved as they're going through this. It's not just for what they do, but for who they are. You let them know that they're more than their uniform, or they're more than just a spouse. They're more than their trauma. Because you hear people say, well, I'm an addict. No, you're diagnosed to being an addict. Or I'll have somebody say to me, well, I lost my family. I'm like, no, you didn't lose your family. You threw your family away for your addiction. So that bottle was more important than your family, or whatever it may be, what's more important than your family, you know. So in that, you have to celebrate the small victories with them. Don't shut them out. You're mad. Yeah, you have all the right to be mad. Those are natural feelings, and so you want to celebrate them small victories. And don't be afraid to speak hope into their journey, even when it feels that the journey is uncertain and it may end. You know,
So
but
Tom, real quick. So you are this message on this right here. You're talking to the family members
yes,
and you're encouraging them to speak hope to their loved one who's going through recovery.
yes, into their journey. And even them, if it's their spouse that's away at these centers going through recovery, the worst thing for you to do is to give up on them and let them go through it alone. Because if they feel that there's no hope, what are they going to come back to? And then eventually they may end up taking their own lives when there's no hope,
Yeah.
especially if that relationship is going to end. You know, because most relationships end because of what? Three things: money, unfaithfulness, and in-laws.
Man,
You know?
the trifecta.
Yes,
Man, in-laws.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So those are the main three things why people get divorced or in relationships today.
What was it? What was it? Say that again. The three.
Money, relationships,
or like
and
lack of fidelity.
Yeah, lack of fidelity, dealing with sex. Yes.
Right.
You know, so you could say money, sex, and in-laws are the top three reasons why people have relational problems today.
I can't imagine why. Like, and you know, on all that,
yes,
you know, this thing right here is kind of like, is that just like evil or what?
It can be.
It touches on all that stuff you just mentioned.
Yeah,
it can touch on all that stuff. So
if you allow it.
Well, we do.
Yes.
We do.
We do.
Many of us glued to the thing, right?
Yeah.
You know,
yes.
It's like some guys live on there. Their social media is their like thing.
It is.
But it doesn't have to be. You're right.
No.
We can have healthy boundaries around these devices that have just like, you know, we think we can't live without these things.
Well, you know, when people are going through crisis, you can find your own support system through Facebook channels dealing with basically everything that you're going through in your crisis, no matter what group it is. You know, so I like to tell people, whether it's finding a connect group at church, a pastor, a counselor, a chaplain, you know, an online support group, or a trusted friend, you need a space to process, you need a space to breathe, and to be reminded that you're not carrying this alone. Healing is a team effort, you know, and that includes you. When families heal together, recovery becomes more than survival, it becomes transformational. You know, I say that husbands and wife that pray together, they stay together. You know, Galatians 6:2 says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. So you don't have to fix everything, but your love, your presence, and your prayers matter more than you know. You know, Henry Nouwen, I like quotes. So Henry Nouwen, he's a priest and a writer, and he once said, when we honestly ask ourselves which person in our lives means the most to us, we often find that it is those who, instead of giving advice, solutions, or cures, have chosen rather to share our pain and touch our wounds with a warm and tender hand. So the people that you're saying that you're your friends, when crisis comes, they're barely there. It's the ones that you don't call friends that end up showing up in that time of crisis to help you.
You know, you find out who your friends are when the stuff hits the fan, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you find out. And firefighters, I'll tell you something else. We find out who's actually good at what they do, who's actually a good firefighter and who isn't.
Yeah.
Based on what they do, how they do it, and you know, like, what kind of partner are you? You know, it's like, man, I think I'll pick somebody else to be my partner. You know?
Yes.
So you mentioned Chisholm team. What is the Chisholm team? Is that some sort of community support team, or what is
no,
that?
It's a team that is developed through the fire departments. Probably every fire department, every municipality and county have one across the country. So it's a critical incident stress management team.
Oh, okay.
So there are people that are trained in individual crisis, group crisis, suicide prevention, pastoral care. So depending on what you need, you can reach out to that critical incident stress management team and say, hey, do you have a contact for me that so I'm on a team with York County, with the York Pocosin Sheriff's Office. I was with Allegheny County in Pittsburgh when I was there as a peer. I'm on the peer support team for Newport News Fire and the critical incident stress management team for Newport News. So there's different rules for different people to play when you're called out to the scene. Obviously,
Okay.
I go for the spiritual and the relational part, as the other chaplains do. So, but you have to be certified through ICISF to have those credentials to be able to be part of those teams. You have to have credentials.
Okay, credentials. And so, so a lot of the resources you're mentioning are really kind of like local to you in the Newport News, Virginia area where you are. But I mean, some of those teams and some of the people that you're mentioning because you're local there. But if I'm reading you right, you're encouraging people that they could get these credentials and they could do some support for these guys out in wherever they are.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, because some of these are national support. Some of them are international. You know, like the ICISF is international, dealing with, crisis. I'm also part of Billy Graham's rapid response team for Samaritan's Purse. So when there's natural disasters come in, I can be deployed as one of their chaplains anywhere in the nation to help a community that's going through crisis, like when they when they had the flood in Texas at the camp, or they had a Hurricane Katrina, or any kind of hurricane. So Billy Graham has a group of chaplains that they deploy through Samaritan's Purse to go into communities and help with the mental aspect of people in those communities.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I might have to talk to you about that offline. That's interesting to me.
And you can go to training for that. Billy Graham they offer that training. You can go through Billy Graham's ministry, look it up on his website, and become part of his rapid deployment team there. And you go to the training, and then they put your name on the list, and you go out and be a chaplain in a community that's going through crisis.
Is that, you mean, is that Franklin Graham's Samaritan's Purse?
Yeah, it's Franklin Graham, but it was started through Billy Graham before he passed away. So yes.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So we lived in Virginia at one time, and we weren't far from Boone, North Carolina, which I think is where Samaritan's Purse is based out of. And shout out to Samaritan's Purse on the Western North Carolina emergency response when they had the big hurricane that kind of came in and just did a number on that whole area.
Yes.
They were there, and they did an extensive amount of work. And they may be still doing work. I don't know.
Oh, they are. They're all over.
They're amazing. And they're doing Operation Christmas Child too. So they've been doing shoe boxes full of toys to kids all over the world for a long time.
Yeah, our church is a big part of that at libertylive.church in Hampton Roads. So we're a big part of the shoebox ministry. We also have our own crisis deployment team. If they needed to go somewhere to help a community or our community, we have a whole team in our church that would go out and help the community that's in crisis during natural disasters. Okay. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm thankful you do that work. It's like we need more guys like you, Tom. You've been through some fire yourself, even though, it's the fire, the refinement of life, not necessarily, lots of emergency calls, but maybe some of those too. Kind of segues really good into our, kind of my one of my last questions. In all this, how has this kind of taught you, like humility and like where would you? I mean, answer that however you want. What has it taught you? It doesn't have to be humility.
Well, I think humility isn't weakness. Some people think it's weakness. It's not weakness. I like to call it strength under control. Between combat in Iraq and my daughter Katie fighting stage 4 glioblastoma brain cancer when she was 17, it taught me that life is very fragile. Same as when I respond to a firefighter suicide, a police officer involved shooting. Life is very fragile. Even dispatchers never get the closure. And sometimes chaplains are not even available or they, their leaders in dispatch don't want chaplains to come in to help their people at times. So, that's kind of a battle. I belong to Therapy Dogging International. We have 25 therapy dogs on our team. My daughter Katie was with them first, but when she passed away, I have her dog Holly. It's our family dog, but she is a certified therapy dog, and I'm a handler through Therapy Dogging International. We have about 25 dogs in the Hampton Roads area that are all certified. So when there's a crisis, they're part of our critical and stress management team. They're part of our peer support team. So they go to the fire stations, they go to the police stations, they go to dispatch with the dogs to help minister to those people, because they're not getting the closure that they would need through that. So chaplaincy taught me that people are complex. I've learned that I don't have all the answers, and that's okay. On my way there, I pray, because God knows what they're going through and what they need. I have no idea. So I'd say, Lord, just give me the words to say. Sometimes, like I said, the most powerful thing I can do is simply show up, listen, and pray. Humility is knowing when to speak and when to be silent. It's being willing to walk beside someone without needing to lead them. So my journey has shown me that humility is also about surrender, letting go of the need to fix, to impress, or to be right. Because as men, we want to fix it. We don't want to sit and listen. We want to be right. Sometimes we want to impress. But it's not about any of those things. It's about trusting God is at work, even when I can't see the outcome. My daughter Katie taught me what it meant to be humble and to trust God in every circumstances in my ministry, because she went through so much grace every day for her year battling cancer. And she knew that her time was coming to a close towards the end, when she passed away on Thanksgiving of 2021. But we, every year on Thanksgiving, we were thankful that we got to be her parents. And the goal was for her as a parent, the goal is for our children to know Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And she had Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. She has videos on YouTube where she shares her testimony to people. And at her own funeral, she showed her year. We videoed her when she was sharing one time at an event with 250 girls and their moms in Virginia Beach, and we videoed it, and we decided that, well, Katie's going to give her own eulogy at her own funeral. So we played the video of her sharing her cancer and what Jesus did and what he meant to her every day. So it's pretty powerful on YouTube with that. So I've sat with people in their darkest moments, and I've realized that presence often speaks louder than words. Humility is found in the quiet courage to hold space for someone else's pain without rushing to fill it. It's in the tears shed, the prayers whispered, and the grace extended when answers fall short. So true humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. It's making room for others to be seen, heard, and valued. It's not about you. It's about them. And in doing so, I found that humility doesn't diminish me. It deepens me in my relationship with God.
Good. Yeah. It's like serving others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You do a lot of that, Tom. I do. Yeah. And, I'm interested. I have a last question, but it's not the question that I wrote there. I would ask, it's obvious to me that you've devoted a large part of your life to this kind of work, this ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom, tell me, how do you take care of you? Tell us. I mean, because there's a lot of guys that I know that we're so used to taking care of everybody else. We don't really take maybe as good a care of ourselves as we should. So lay it on us. Tell us what you do to take care of you. I mean, I'm putting you under pressure. This is totally off the cuff.
No, you're okay. You know, so taking care of myself, my wife is always on me about taking care of myself. I had a heart catheterization done in February. I left the post office due to stress. The doctor told me if I wouldn't have retired when I retired, I'd probably be dead. Satan likes to get us when we're fatigued and we're tired, and he likes to put bait on traps, and we take that bait and then we end up getting wounded, or, we can actually die, like a mouse gets on a trap, you're either getting wounded or it's going to get killed. So if you do not have your own safety nets in place, you got to have them in there. So I have a counselor that I speak to monthly, dealing with my depression, my PTSD, and suicidal ideation. So I have that. I have pastors that I confide in, because I think if I share with maybe one person, it'd be too much for them. So I have multiple people, multiple safety nets, to help me. I use doTERRA essential oils. So I have an oil, it's called Adaptive, and that oil helps, because I have my medication for my PTSD, but I use different doTERRA essential oils. Now these are medical grade oils, so they're a little bit more expensive than, going to Walmart or buying them online.
Yeah.
But the quality is where it's at. So there's different oils that I use that help me deal with my PTSD or when I'm overwhelmed. So my favorite is the Adaptive. I use that a lot.
Okay.
So and then instead of taking sleeping pills, I use an oil called Serenity. I put it on the bottom of my feet. If I have headaches, instead of using an aspirin or a Tylenol, I'll use some peppermint. If I'm having trouble breathing, I'll use lavender. There's so many different oils. There's so many different beneficial oils from doTERRA. There's a lot of different companies out there, but I found that doTERRA is the best one for me. And I think that if you're going through things, just like anything else in life, you pay for what you get. You get what you pay for, So doTERRA oils are, and they're medical grade, and you can take them internally also. You can put them in a gel cap and you can ingest them. All these other oils you can't do that with.
Okay.
So these are the things that I have in place that help me.
Okay, that's very interesting, because I've done some stuff with some oils as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a real fan of a lot of the Western medical stuff, and we've kind of learned a few things about the Western medical system with the some of the stuff that we've learned in the past few years. So let's just leave it there. As a former EMT and paramedic, it's like
absolutely
okay, yeah. Okay. So, this has been really good. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about you. I've learned a lot about kind of what the cutting edge of all this stuff is in the fire service. And I'm just thankful for passionate guys like you, teams of people who come around first responders to help first responders and our combat veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Just bless you guys, man. Just like so much. Really thankful for you guys. Kind of like what kind of final thoughts do you have? What kind of things would you say to us? Family members, guys who've been in the trenches, just encouragement.
Sure.
Hope.
Well, my wife would tell you that I am not your normal chaplain. So I am all in. Serving these responders is the greatest honor of my life. Whether in combat or on the fire ground, like you mentioned, well, you haven't been to combat. Well, yes, you have. Your battlefield's just different. but you have been in combat through your life, through wildland fires, through structure fires, through PTSD, through depression, all those things. You've gone through your own combat in battlefields. So, whether you're in combat on the fire ground, behind the badge, deployed somewhere in the world, or in a dispatch console, I've seen the toll the service takes, the long nights, the missed holidays, the birthdays, the weights of decisions made in seconds, but I've always seen the strength it builds, the quiet courage, the relentless grit, and the deep compassion that defines every responder and their family. Mine and my wife's mission is very simple. It's to be a steady presence in the storm, a voice of hope in the silence, and a reminder that no one walks alone. I want every firefighter who's battling the flames, every officer who faced danger, every dispatcher who's held the line, and every family member who's waited at home to know they are seen, they are valued, and they are never forgotten. This calling is more than a career. It's a promise to stand beside those who run towards chaos, to honor the sacrifices made in service, and to uplift the hearts and to carry the burden of care. If I can offer a moment of peace, a word of encouragement, or a sense of belonging, then I have fulfilled my purpose that I was given. To all of those who have served, thank you and support. You are the heartbeat of our communities, and I am humbled to walk that path with you. And to your families especially, for the sacrifice given every second of every hour of every day for your loved one that serves people in the community that they don't even know. And know this, that even though I do not know you, everyone that's listening to this podcast or whoever it may touch, if you're a responder in your family, I am praying with you. I am praying for you, and I am covering you in prayer. That's what I have to say to you.
Tom, well said. Well said. Thank you. Thank you for the prayers for all of those, the first responders, their families. One of the things that came up for me when I kind of mentioned it was out of left field was I lost a dear friend of mine. He lost the battle with with the things he was struggling with,
his demons. That's what I tell people. We battle our own demons every day.
Yeah. And I don't know if and actually there's another guy that I worked with and who also lost a battle, and he lost his son also to the same thing. They both worked for the same fire department, the one that I worked for. And so, it's kind of hard to talk about, but I mean, this is a real thing. This is something that people really struggle with. And, I'm just like, we want to provide help. We want to get the message out there that this is, you're not alone, and that there are resources for family members. While you're going through the shadow of the valley of death, there is no stone that cannot be unturned. Everything can be done. Everything can be done. It may not look like it. It may not look like there's hope, but there is hope. You've talked about the hope of Jesus Christ here.
Yes.
And I have this faith. I'm alongside you with that faith. But I would also encourage our brothers in the fire service who maybe they don't see it that way. Maybe they have a different, they read a book of Stoicism or whatever it is they worship. It doesn't have to be the way that it's been. It can be different. There is hope. There is going to be, I hate to be that guy, throughout, this, there's, scripture verses and things because, I don't want to hear that anymore. Well, there are new mercies every morning. There's new hope every day. You get a new sunrise comes up. A new opportunity to have it be different. And it can be different, right?
Yes.
You know this. And I know this too. So I'm just like hoping and praying that our brothers in the fire service, the brothers who are first responders, law enforcement, combat veterans, that if they see this, that maybe they will take another look. Maybe they'll maybe they'll be thankful that you were on here and have a fresh perspective on something, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, one thing, sorry to interrupt you. One thing is that I've noticed, if responders don't reach out to let you know they need help, I can't help them. You know, so we have to change that culture of that silence and that stigmatism. You know, it has to be changed. You know, it don't have to be about faith. I mean, I mentioned faith because that is my faith base. Yeah. And like I said at the beginning of this, all the crises and things that I have gone through with depression, PTSD, suicidal ideation, my daughter having cancer twice, losing my daughter. I know the Lord, and I'm barely making it knowing him.
Amen. So my wife and I were talking this morning, and you know, there's a lot of evil in the world, and evil has its way when there's silence, when there's lack of communication. Evil creates and can fosters division. And I've noticed that, and I was made aware of that this morning after I had woken up, and my wife and I were talking before we got our day going, and that is, division is what evil wants. Division is not what families want. We want to be together. We want to be connected with each other. That's what families do. That's what families are for, right?
Yes.
And she told me that, and I was like, wow, like division is that's not the way, right? So how do we do that? We have to find a way to reach out. We have to find a way to communicate. Hey, I'm struggling. Just a text, you know, not a cryptic message, not like, yeah, I think I'm on the edge today. No, not like, you know, I think I'm going to lose my birthday this year. No, just like make it, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Just let somebody know, because evil wants division. Evil wants separation. And evil wants silence. And silence is not, isolation is not where it's at. We can't let ourselves go there. It's dark there. So, Tom, I'm really thankful for this conversation. I'm really thankful for you. I'm thankful for your wife. I'm thankful for all the guys and all the families that you've helped. I would encourage just so many guys and to reach out and to find to end the silence, to know that you are not alone.
You know, and they can find me on Facebook. You know, Tom, Tom, and Snyir, Snyir. They can friend me on Facebook and send me a chat, or, you know, and I'll respond. And even if it's just you send me the word prayer, I'll send you back a prayer. I'll pray for you. I don't need to know what's going on. God knows, and he'll put on my heart whatever it needs for me to pray with you about. So, you know, I'm here. I'm a resource. I'm a resource in your toolbox.
So good. So good. You're an example for a lot of guys too. A lot of women. I've met women in the fire service, and you know, they need these they need supports as well.
Sure.
So let's make sure that you get whatever contact stuff, any resources that you listed today, we'll get those in the show notes at the below, so people can find those and they can click on that stuff and follow up with any of those things that you mentioned.
Sure.
So Tom, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.